You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast.
İbrahim'in pası, Zuma, şimdi Ahmet, ikinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş, Ahmet,
And welcome back, everybody. Sorry if I shocked you with that intro. Episode 213 of the Black Eagles podcast. And I am your host, Sinan, reporting live from New York City. And unseasonably warm weather. Last couple days we've had pretty decent, almost fall or not quite spring-like weather yet, but certainly it's been going pretty well. Apologies for that phone sound. Again, I literally had my phone on sound since the last episode and just turned that off to annoy you all with. But I am, in fact, back to talk Beşiktaş, and you know we've got some fun things to discuss this week, starting, naturally, with a match. And probably just about ending there too, but whatever. We played Fatih Karagümrük on the road, an away match, a kind of quote unquote derby, even, if you will. That might have caveats, right? Whether or not it's an actual. I mean, it is technically a derby as far as two Istanbul sides, but doesn't carry much weight, I guess we could say, right? Fatih Karagümrük is a side we have not played a ton. My app only has this and last season's matches recorded, for example, so I won't be able to give you much in the way of a head-to-head. But, Fatih Karagümrük is a side that I think last season turned a lot of heads, earned some attention, at least, right? Had a pretty decent outing. This year, they started out hot. They've somewhat cooled down, I'm not going to lie. Definitely, kind of decidedly mid-table at this point. Right? And I don't want to spoil. I'll get into the table at the end of the episode. But, still better than a side that was recently promoted. But, given what they did last year, I think many would have assumed they might make progress. That's not quite happened, so mixed bag for Fatih Karagümrük. Now let's quickly talk. I didn't give any preview for them last episode, so I will get into their form a bit. And it's worth noting that their form was not bad coming into this match. 5 matches ago, or 5 matches prior, they had drawn Fenerbahçe at home, 1-1. But again, it's worth noting they're at home against us this match. After that, they followed that up with a road draw, but against Malatyaspor, a side that's also overperformed. I guess, maybe even more clearly overperformed relative to Fatih Karagümrük, right? Alanya has sort of stayed in the top 5 all season, just about. So a good draw for them there. Then in the Turkish Cup against Belediyesi Bodrumspor, a big 4-0 victory. I mean, what are you going to say? A cup match against a low-level side. But they followed that up with a disappointing outing against Gaziantep. Gaziantep beat them 3-1. Granted, it was in Gaziantep on the eastern side of Turkey. And a notably tough road trip. And I had mentioned prior to our match that Gaziantep was in really good form going into that one. And so that was the match that led into that. But so Fatih Karagümrük followed that up with a solid 2-0 victory against Rizespor coming into our match. Now quickly I'll talk about the head-to-head between the two sides. I mentioned that my app only goes as far as last season, but it's worth noting. So last year we crushed Fatih Karagümrük 1-4 on the road. But they followed that up by surprising us and getting a 1-2 victory against us at Vodafone Park late in the season for us last year, as you may or may not recall, putting us into panic mode a little bit right before we won the title. They were very happy to nick that victory from under our crown aspiring hands. But so, yeah, I think a lot of our fans took that negatively, didn't like the way that they were so happy to sort of prevent us from winning the title, right? In favor of who was the question. I mean, you could make the argument in favor of just them getting a W against a good side, but whatever. A little classless. I think we were all quite stressed too, to be fair. But so we followed that up coming into this season. We played them already, let's remember. And we beat them 1-0 at home. Rashid Ghazal scoring... Alex Teixeira, rather, scoring the only goal of the match. And yeah, that was a nice goal, too, from distance, right? Kind of a looper. We all thought that was the beginning of good things to come for the squad this season. So, one of few good memories from this part of this year's Sergen Yalchin experience. This season's, I guess we should say. Because he technically won last year, or same year. Whatever. I'm getting all mixed up here. You guys know what I'm saying. Point being, we have sort of a storied rivalry with these guys now at this point, just given the extent to which they were a pain in our butt last year. And the fact that they've shown the ability to mix things up, sort of. That one victory was the only one, to be fair, and they had 2 losses against us coming into this match. So let's talk about it. I'm losing the plot here, right? Let's talk about the lineups, right? So for Beşiktaş, Ersin Destanoglu in the goal, Domagoj Vida and Necip Uysal on the back line, Valentin Rosier and Ridvan Yilmaz on the wings of our defense, Miralem Pjanic and Josef de Souza in the back of our midfield, with Ozan Ozyakuk in the lineup. Rashid Ghazal and Kyle Laren on the wings, with Mishi Batshuayi up front. Not much in the way of surprise, except perhaps seeing Ozan in the lineup. Emirhan was being rested. There was talk of a minor injury. Manager said he actually may have recovered in time, but just he wanted to make sure he wasn't getting rushed back onto the pitch. Fair enough, right? We've seen Sergen make the wrong call in that regard with a number of guys. Especially, struggling with the language here today, but especially Alex Teixeira, who he rushed back twice. At least, that's how it appears to have worked out in the end. So, anyway, with that said, not a ton of change in the lineup. For Fatih Karagümrük, seasoned Italian keeper, 36-year-old Emiliano Viviano, playing in the goal for Fatih Karagümrük, in front of Burak Bekaroglu, 24-year-old Turk, next to Jure Balkovic, 27-year-old Slovenian. On their wings, Caner Erkin, who's already 33, but still sometimes the first call-up to the national side somehow. Salih Dursun, 30-year-old Turk, in their defense. A bit of a petulant dude, if we're going to be honest. Dirty fouls, loud to the ref, everything you hate in a player, unless he's on your team, perhaps. Christian Bistrovic, 23-year-old Croatian, would feature in their midfield next to Adnan Ugur, 20-year-old Belgian Turk. Maybe he'll be a Turk, at least footballing-wise. Up in front of them, Jimmy Durmaz, 32-year-old Swede, I guess we could say. Turkish, Swede, Turk. Turk, Swede. On their wings, Jan Karamo, 23-year-old Frenchman, and Emre Mor, 24-year-old Turk. It's hard to believe he's only 24, given the extent to which his career has already seemingly flopped. Maybe that's hard. And then up top, Fabio Borini, 30-year-old Italian. Hard to believe he's only 30. He's had such a storied career up till now, and having already opted to play for Fatih Karagümrük, you'd assume he was much more past it. But so interesting. So there it is. That's your lineup for both sides. Let's, I suppose, just dig right into this match, shall we? So, First of all, the action was pretty hot and heavy early on, and much of it in Beşiktaş's favor. Very first minute, in fact, Joseph finds Larin really well out on the wing. Kyle Larin seems to do a pretty good job, actually, of crossing the ball in. It finds Michy Batshuayi's head. He heads it well, but Viviano does quite well to make a nice save. Again, one of those, like, Michy Batshuayi almost scoring in the first minute of the game, not quite pulling it off type deals. It was called offside because Kyle Larin was off. Something of a theme for this match, honestly. But yeah, in those first maybe 30, 35 minutes, not much in the way of highlights, to be honest. But very good football from Beşiktaş, right? We're pressing. We are doing lots of good build-up. The finishing, the final touch, right? The finishing product, the attack was impotent yet again. No, not even really any shots. You know, we did such a good job of controlling the pace of the game, recovering well, getting the ball back, pushing it forward. Lots of fluid passing up until that last, third of the pitch or whatever it is, quarter of the pitch at least, where we just didn't quite know how to put things together. Perhaps they were defending in numbers in the back, but Beşiktaş was quite dominant. It was a good stretch of play regardless, even without the goals or even with the impotence, because it was dominant to the extent that they weren't even getting enough of the ball to do anything clever with the counter. We were really quick and decisive in attack and defensively, which you like to see. 34th minute, Pjanic would send a shot from distance, which would actually end up being a relatively easy save. But it was a pretty solid shot nonetheless. And there it was, finally, the attack coming to fruition. We get an attempt on goal. And it would signal good things, right? 36th minute, a handball in the box, a penalty kick awarded. Batshuayi steps up, sends it to the right confidently. Goal, 1-0. He runs to the sideline and gives Gökhan Töre a big hug, which I had thought it was Under Karavelli because they have a notoriously good relationship somehow. But no, it was actually Gökhan Töre. Don't know what that's about. People are theorizing in my group chat that Gökhan Töre has always gotten along really well, with a number of foreigners historically, Quaresma, Dembaba. I know he's part of the crew with Ozan and all that, like Necip, right? The kind of OG Beşiktaş boys, although they're not technically a product of the team or anything to the extent Necip is. But so yeah, I guess he's sort of a social butterfly. What can you say? Michy Batshuayi really appreciated his, support on the sidelines or whatever it was. But yeah, big hug, kind of almost delaying the game a little. And that would be it for the first half. We go in with a lead, 0-1 on the road. Aside, we've only won once this season on the road coming into this match. So, with that, we could be on course for a correction, you hope. But on the other hand, you can't look at a 1-0 lead at the half and think we're safe, right? Because just given that track record. At the half, Levent Mercan would enter for Adnan Ur, and Vato Arveladze would enter for Jan Karamo. Although that Karamo sub would not be until the 58th minute. And before then, 47th minute, Batshuayi with a nice ball up to Kyle Larin. He sends it wide, almost one-on-one, honestly, just given, a bit of an angle, in truth, but he should have done better. He could have scored here. And he misses just wide, but too bad. He's sort of the missing link as far as recreating successes of last year. I saw a stat that Abubakar contributed to 14 goals, 12 himself, 2 assists. Batshuayi already has 9 and 4. So, as much as we know we're impotent in attack and we want to think that the striker would be the issue, that's not necessarily the case in this scenario. I think it's actually the other things that were clicking that have not quite clicked for us this year, and especially Kyle Larin, who was damn near a 20-goal scorer for us. So we obviously need to replace that somehow. I think a lot of us might have hoped it would be Alex Teixeira. obviously, or Batshuayi might contribute a little more than Abubakar. I mean, he's still on track to do that very much so, but, we'll see. Anyway, just wide from Kyle Larin. 52nd minute, Karamo would really get the first chance on for Fatih Karagümrük. It would be a really nice he'd slide back past our defense just a bit too enthusiastically. He would be called offsides in the end, but he did force Ersin to make a pretty solid save, diving. And that would be, so in the 52nd minute, their first real highlight of the match, which is also good for us, in the big picture. But so anyway, then you have the sub, where Karamo comes off for Arveladze. In the 54th minute, actually, I lied. There was one more chance in the 54th, right after the Karamo one, where Batshuayi, from distance, does really well to force Viviano into a saving on a diving one. Then the sub for the Karamo Arveladze one. Then again, Batshuayi taking a shot from distance. This time he sends it just a bit wide. But so Batshuayi is just chomping at the bit, man. He really wants a goal, or another goal in this case. Obviously, he scored a lot on penalties, so it's not like his favorite thing, right? He wants to do more. I mean, he had a nice one in the other match, but again, a penalty goal for him in this one. But whatever, it is what it is. More action, 62nd minute. Again, finally, a chance for Fatih Karagümrük. This time, Bistrovic putting it on. An easy save for Ersin. But intent, right? They're starting to wake up a little here. 68th minute, Emre Mor. Now, this is real action. He sends in a solid shot with power. And it would be saved. A diving save by Ersin. But Emre Mor was called offside. So, grain of salt, I guess you could say. And then that would be it for a little bit of time, at least as far as action of note. Can Bozdoğan would enter the match for Ozan in the 70th minute. 73rd, Michy Batshuayi, a yellow card. 76th, Alexander Pesic comes into the match for Jimmy Durmaz. 77th, Salih Dursun finally gets a yellow card after a number of clumsy, harsh tackles. A very deserved yellow card. 79th, Beşiktaş finally makes a few subs. Gökhan Töre comes in for Kyle Larin, much needed. Güven Yalçın comes on for Rashid Ghezal. Less needed, but you gotta keep your guys fresh, I suppose. And then, action again. A free kick from Bistrovic, forcing a diving save by Ersin. Solid work there from Ersin yet again. At this point, he's very much keeping us ahead. They've had a number of opportunities to score, and he's held up, right? I mean, only a couple really solid chances, and like one of the most dangerous was the one that was called offsides, but whatever. 86th minute, a volley from Borini would sort of dribble to Ersin, an easy save in that case, but a good chance wasted. And they're now at this point taking control of the match, trying to get that equalizer, and we're just sort of bending and not breaking, hopefully. 89th minute, Alex Teixeira enters the match. Dun, dun, dun, dun. Finally, a return. He comes on for Michy Batshuayi, so he would play up front. Salih Uçan also making a surprise return. In for Miralem Pjanic, again, keeping the legs fresh. Guys who are sort of slagging a little bit in a time when we need everyone to be giving maximal effort. So you bring in some guys who are hungry to prove they belong in there. I get it. 90th minute, Alparslan Erdem enters the match for Caner Erkin, and David Birashi enters the match for Salih Dursun. All around, I would say, interesting subs made late for both sides that signal intent of various, of differing logic, right? Because we had differing issues to deal with coming into it. But I'd never heard of this David Birashi, 27-year-old Italian. I think he's on loan from Bologna or something. But Fatih Karagümrük keeps surprising. Also of note, Fatih Karagümrük has Tunay Torun, a guy who a lot of us thought would turn into something like a decade ago. Just like lounging deep in their bench. So it's interesting how much Turkish football has provided these, in some ways, developments regarding, like having talent that you think would be starting for like a mid-table sides on their bench, right? The league's gotten deeper talent-wise because of the foreign limitation being restricted. The league has gotten far. There's so much more parity now. It's never assumed that Beşiktaş, Fener, and Galatasaray will all win on any given match day, or if any of them will win these days. So it's a big shift, I think, honestly, as far as the Super League goes, as far as where the league is and what we can expect of it. But anyway, we hold out. The game's over, 0-1. We get our second away victory of the season, and that underlines what I was just saying about how the Super League is no longer a cakewalk for us. But yeah, a huge 3 points, if we're going to be 100% honest. When we ended this match, for one shining moment, we were in third place. Of course, things have changed since with other results coming in, but it was still very, after a season of us floundering, just to see us back in third, couple victories in a row, no less. I would hardly say that we're on like great form per se, but on the other hand, we're undefeated, right? 5 matches in a row. That includes draws against Malatyaspor in the Super Cup and Rizespor on the road, a side that, even Fatih Karagümrük, right, managed to defeat 2-0 just a week prior. So, some hitches along the way and like a couple 1-0 victories that we're eking out. So it's not like we're, exciting to watch by any stretch. But I think you could honestly make the argument that we have been relatively dominant. Doesn't mean anything when you're only scoring once, because even a side that's relatively dominant can give up a goal on the counter, right? But yeah, progress for sure. Beşiktaş getting results, moving on up in the table. And we'll talk about the table in a moment, actually. First, what we have to talk about are some statistics. Statisticos. Beşiktaş had 54% of the ball to their 46. Not a surprise. Again, especially from the 65th or 60th minute on, Fatih Karagümrük were desperate to get that equalizer and were holding much more of the ball and putting more attempts on goal. It would show as well in shots. They had 12 to our 11. Although 5 on target to our 3. We both had 6 off target. So, hardly more efficient, although a little bit more. We actually created more chances though, 9 to their 7, and we had 3 big chances to their 0. So, credit to our defense, midfield, really kind of cutting opportunities out for them as best as they could, despite them being quite desperate to get a result here. Accurate passes, we had 402 to their 327, getting close. We completed them at an 81% rate to their 79% rate. Now that's not ideal. They were playing their game. They conceded 10 fouls. We conceded 13. We had 4 corners to their 3. They were offsides 5 times to our 4. All of this suggesting it was actually pretty back and forth. Although, especially those first 35 minutes, we were just so dominant. It's hard to really recall that this was actually an even match. But the second half was really back and forth. I think we can grant them that. Now, individual stats. And my man of the match. I think you could give it to a number of players here. You could give it to the goal scorer, Batshuayi, although it was a penalty kick. And although he had a number of shots on goal and showed willingness to go forward and score, still a little bit profligate, right? A little bit sloppy. The defense was really solid. Necip, I will have to say, he made 2 or 3 saving diving tackles, really solid on the back. It's funny how much better he is as a central defender than he ever was as a midfielder of any sort. especially, I guess, right? He was considered a defensive midfielder for the longest time. I think perhaps it was a positional mistake. As a right back, I mean, in a pinch, right? There are worse, but yeah, he belongs on the back line for sure. And it looks like he might need to be a central defender, as for the most part. Certainly, maybe a backup, right? But given where we are now, given Vida underperforming regularly, given the fact that you need Turks out there again, we're starting to ramp up foreigner things again, which will hurt the league in the way that I was just talking about it having benefited in the last decade or so. Necip could be valuable as a central defender, at least again off the bench, ideally. Now, as far as my real sort of man of the match contributors, I think you could argue for Valentin Rosier, who was hyperactive all over the pitch again. After I gave him man of the match last week, and he really followed it up with another fantastic performance. He's really rounding into great form just at the right time. But yeah, he was great defensively, coming back, making good tackles, going forward, supporting the wing again with Rachid Ghazal, who couldn't really take advantage of it as much as we might like. He's a little cold now still. Rachid Ghazal, I mean. But so yeah, Rosier, solid outing. But perhaps the best performer of this match is Ersin Destanoğlu, and I mentioned, he wasn't tested a ton, but there were 5 shots on target. He saved them all. And a number of chances that didn't count because they were offsides, but he stepped up. In fact, their best one, which was a really tough shot from Emre Mor that he got down and saved well. And then not just saved well, but punched out of anyone's way so that it wouldn't turn into another opportunity for them, which has been something of a weakness of his. It suggests he's focusing on improvement, trying to do better, do the right things where in the past maybe he hasn't. So that's the best thing you can hope for from a young player, I would say. But so yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and give it to him. I don't want to do Rosier twice in a row, but yeah, Ersin Destanoğlu is my man of the match. 3 diving saves, 5 saves in total, 4 saves from inside the box. A couple of dinklers, though, but whatever. 9 throws, whatever that means. He had 11 recoveries, 44 touches, so, the defense was relying on him a little bit to reassemble at times. I'll just quickly talk about Rosier's stats as well. He played all 90 minutes, 41 accurate passes at an 89% rate. He created a chance. No shots on goal this week. 41 accurate passes out of 46. Solid. Again, 89%. 72 touches. So again, very, very involved. Last week he broke records, I think, in that regard. But yeah, still really involved. And that chance created was a key pass too. So it was a really well created chance, which perhaps more should have been done with. But whatever, it is what it is. He was only 4 of 8 in duels. But, that didn't result in any goals scored, so it couldn't have been so bad. 9 recoveries, so yeah, I mean, good numbers from Rosier. But yeah, I'm going with Ersin Destanoğlu, because I think without him stepping up 2 or 3 times, we could easily have given up 2 points, if not the match entirely. So, good, especially after a couple of bad performances after the break, quote unquote. We never really got one, but after, the holiday season, yeah, he stepped up and turned the corner, and you love to see that. Again, especially from a young kid, because I think it's easy to be shattered mentally after a few bad performances as a young kid, especially as a keeper. So, yeah, he's pulled it back together, as you'd hope, as good players do, right? That kind of already signals that much, even. Perhaps that's a little preemptive. Anyway, let's quickly talk about our next match. First, standings. Let's round up this last match day, shall we? Still, of course, Konyaspor and Başakşehir have a game in hand. The Konyaspor match was postponed because, of course, of the passing of Ahmet Çalık. Rest in peace. So, yeah, game in hand there. Konyaspor, however, if they were to win that, would have 45 points. And be 6 points back on Trabzonspor. Shh, don't tell anyone. Trabzon might be choking. Abdulhapchi, what are you doing, bro? So yeah, 51 points for Trabzon. Konya has 42 at the moment, with that game in hand, however. In third place, Fener with 36 points. Worth noting that they beat Altay 2-1 at home. In fourth place, Alanyaspor with 35 points, level with us and Hatayspor, but ahead of us on goal differential. So they get to claim fourth, although in theory, Beşiktaş is... We're back, baby. We were in ninth not long ago, then seventh, and now fifth is where we are, right behind Alanyaspor with 34 points. Hatay also has 35 points. So Alanya, Beşiktaş, and Hatay all 35 points. Hatay got thrashed 6-0 by Alanyaspor today, so that's why their goal differential is hurting, and Alanya's is thriving. Otherwise, we'd be in fourth place. Interestingly, right? They just got a +6 boost, and Hatay just got a -6. But so yeah, if they had just won like 1-0, we would be in fourth. But whatever, I'm not too worried about Alanya or Hatay at the moment, especially Hatay, right? They just... And by the way, conspiracy theorists out there who wanted to say that Hatay, sold us that 7-0 match. So did they sell this one to Alanya also? I don't know. So it seems like they have that in them, right? The capacity to just bottle it every here and there. Perhaps they're lacking in depth. I mean, they did just get promoted not long ago. Whatever, it doesn't matter. So that's the sort of important part of the stats right there, right? Beşiktaş is 1 point behind Fenerbahçe, who are in third place. We are 7 points behind Konyaspor, but potentially 10 if they win that match against Başakşehir. If not, if they draw that match, Başakşehir enters that group of teams with 35 points. And with a +9 goal differential, we would actually drop into 6th place. Of course, if Başakşehir won, they'd have 37 points, and they'd pass Fener and go up into 3rd, dropping us still into 6th. So basically, the worst case scenario is we're a 6th place team, but like level with just about all the other sides who have almost around 35 points. Potentially with 3 other sides if Hatay were to draw. Or we're just still here in 5th place should Başakşehir lose that match to Konya. It has been rescheduled. I don't recall the date. Doesn't really matter. We are not a Başakşehir or Konyaspor podcast. We don't care about them. Let's talk a little bit, finally, about Yeni Malatyaspor, who we are playing next at home. Yeni Malatya. Sorry, actually, it's on the road. How is it? It's like 2 road games in a row? That's crummy. But anyway, Yeni Malatya is a side that is in last place. They have a match in hand still as well, because their last match was canceled due to snow. They were scheduled to play Gaziantep in Gaziantep, and it snowed pretty hard. So our next match is in Malatya. However, it's against last placed Yeni Malatya. They're at the bottom of the table with 15 points. They could theoretically have 18 if they were to beat Gaziantep in that reschedule eventually. But then they'd be level with Altay on 18 points. Above them, Rize with 21, 3 points ahead. And above Rize, Antalya with 23. I hope Antalya doesn't get relegated. Nice town. Above them, though, is Göztepe. I certainly don't want them to get relegated, because you want that Izmir derby. I mean, Altay doesn't look like they're going to survive. Whatever. But so, yeah, you've got Göztepe with 24 and Kasim Pasha with 24 as well. Right above the relegation zone. Remember, Antalya has 23. Then Giresun with 26 and Galatasaray in 13th place with 27 points. And it's worth noting they lost 3-1 or 1-3. In fact, they were the home side against Kasim Pasha, who I mentioned is right in that relegation scrum. Now just 3 points behind Galatasaray. So Galatasaray is 3 points out of the spot, like right above relegation. just 4 spots above relegation, although only separated by 4 points from Antalya. So Galatasaray is at this point much closer to the relegation zone than they are to European spots. They are 10 points clear of 4th place and 7 points clear. 4 points clear of the relegation zone. So the bottom 4 versus the top 4 there, right? 4 points closer, 4 points away from the bottom, 10 points away from the top 4. Not looking good for Galatasaray. But for Beşiktaş, we are moving on up. Moving on up, moving on up. Yeah. Woo! 5th place. And let's hope for continued success, right? You're getting me singing. This is quite the episode. Anyway, I'm either going crazy or this podcast is getting better, depending on your takes. But so yeah, Yeni Malatya, Saturday, January 22nd. January 22nd is just a couple days away. Once again, I'm making an episode that only has a very small window of relevancy, but okay, we'll deal with that. Interestingly, this match is on at 5:30 a.m. here in New York City, Eastern Coast of the United States. Check your local listings. Kind of an odd time to be having a match played. It's a reschedule. We were supposed to play on Friday. I got pushed back because of weather concerns, snow. I've heard rumors that perhaps this will be canceled as well because of snow in Malatya. So we shall see. Again, Malatya, last place side. Not a whole lot to fear. And I didn't do any thorough preview of them. Again, their last match was rescheduled. Their previous 5 matches, no wins, 1 draw, 4 losses. They drew Kayseri at home, lost to Fener on the road, lost to Bandırmaspor in the Turkish Cup at home, lost to Trabzon on the road, 1-0, lost to Göztepe at home, 1-2. They haven't won since December 2nd of last year. They beat Akhisar in the Cup. They haven't won in the league since beating Altay on October 22nd. They did draw Galatasaray on November 28th, although I guess that's kind of a relegation scrum of sorts, isn't it? I'm just joking. Any Galatasaray fans out there, I hope you don't take that personally. Just fooling around. Players to note for Yeni Malatya. They've got Okechukwu Azubuike, 24-year-old Nigerian. Technically in on loan, whatever. They've got Sadiq Çiftpınar, a player who's been a, bigger side. They've also got Semi Kaya, speaking of a player who's been on bigger side. I can't believe he's only 30. Another guy who should theoretically be better, right? Karim Hafez, 25-year-old Algerian, Egyptian left back, has shown ability at times. Nuha Diko, 29-year-old Malian, he's a very speedy dude. He's caused us trouble in the past. Kenan Uzer is 34-year-old dude who many will recognize, even if he's not particularly good. Oh yeah, so lots of interesting names. But yeah, stay tuned for more. We will be back, of course, this coming weekend to talk about how that match goes. Until then, follow us, right, on Twitter, at Eagles_podcast, on Instagram, Black Eagles Podcast, one word. Follow myself, Sinan, at Sir_writes_a lot. Yeah. Stay tuned, folks. We will be back, of course. I should venture. Let's go, Beşiktaş! Peace out, everyone. Woo! Got this. Back into the European spots. Let's do this. Woo!
Beşiktaş International hopes you enjoyed this program.